Okay, we're going to get started. So I would like to thank all of you for coming. That was fantastic that you are here. The purpose of these talks that I'm starting to do is kind of a number of purposes. One of them is to try to add some value to the members of the gym. So those of you who come, and also I'm putting it on a Facebook group and recording it on Facebook Live so people can watch it if they're not able to come. So hopefully I'll get everybody to watch this because it's also the kickoff for the 12-week challenge that we're starting. And then what I'd also like to do over time is involve more people from the community to be able to come in and just watch these free lectures and get some sort of information for themselves. We're doing a BC Buy Local campaign around here right now for all the businesses. And what we're also trying to do is figure out ways that we can get more people to come into the neighborhood. So with getting these going more regularly and getting the attendance up, and hopefully we can get, like 20 odd people in here for some of these talks, and then afterwards they'll be able to go around to the community and support some of the local business. And all of the talks are going to be done by other people who have a local business, Vancouver, greater Vancouver area, or the next couple of talks are going to be people who have businesses right on this street. So we're going to have a talk from the physiotherapist and also from one of the girls at the Pure Pharmacy about supplementation and that type of stuff. So this is Garrett from Cuisine, BC. He has got some awesome information about healthy eating and fad diets. He's a fantastic dude who I like very much, and I'm very happy that he is here. I met him a number of years ago. I guess I was teaching you how to do kettlebells with a couple other people for some classes that were going to happen at Hot Yoga Studio in New Westminster, and we've just stayed in touch since then. He just recently got certified as a Strong First bodyweight instructor, which means that he can do a one-arm, one-leg push-up, because that's the strength standard you need to do in order to pass that. So it's pretty impressive and pretty cool. Yeah. And so I will leave the floor to you, and I hope everybody enjoys.
Thank you, brother. Nice to meet you. My name is Garrett. Steve already got that out of the way. I'm a Strong First certified bodyweight instructor. Steve actually introduced me to Strong First, the school, and the kettlebell, and it blew my mind, and it stuck with me ever since. I think it's been about 4 years, a little bit more than that. And it's changed the way I've trained and changed the way I've interacted with my clients. So not only the equipment, but the philosophy of strength and being strong in life and stuff like that. So I will forever be grateful to Mr. McMinn. Thank you so much, everybody. Give him a round. Yes. So as he mentioned, I run a meal preparation company. That what does that mean? That just means we provide healthy meals as conveniently as possible, based on whatever your goal may be. If you need any information about that, please ask Neil to at the end of class, and yeah, make sure to take your email down. So why we started this was, as a personal trainer, most of the answers about weight loss and weight management come down to what you're eating. Of course, your body needs stimulus like weight training to force change, but especially with lowering that number on the scale, your diet is a very simple way to get a hold of that. Pretty straightforward. Now, if you have any questions at the end of each of these segments, please put your hand up. I'll ask, and yeah, I'll point you out. Disclaimer: if you have any serious questions about nutrition, ask your doctor first, and get some blood work done, and you'll have a really good baseline on what you need and what you should eat, and so on. Okay? Great. Any questions so far? Great. Okay. So today I'll be going through some really simple rules that you can put on your fridge, put them on your phone. Just an outline that you can ask yourself, okay, how am I doing when I'm choosing what to eat, or going about making a meal plan for myself. 5 simple rules, and yeah, we'll be making an ebook with these a little bit more in detail. If you guys want a copy of the ebook, again, just go to Neil at the end of class and give you a note. Okay, 5 simple rules that you can take with you and hopefully change your life with. I know I don't want to oversimplify it, but it is very simple, but it's not easy to make a life change like this. Your diet is attached to your lifestyle, it's attached to your personality, and sometimes it takes a big effort to make a serious change. But I'm here to tell you it's very much worth it. Yeah, anyways, timing. I'll be talking about when is the best times to eat, fasting, and fasted cardio, and how that can affect weight loss, weight management. I'll be talking about carbohydrates, when you should eat them, and the importance of them in general. We'll be talking about water. Why is it so important? Because, I mean, you hear it all the time, drink water. But there are a couple reasons why water is particularly important amongst all the things you can ingest. And and how it fits into weight loss. Whole foods. I'll be talking about why nutrient density and pro and prebiotics should be on the forefront of your mind when you're choosing what to eat. Okay, any questions so far? All right, before I get started. All right, so timing. Ideally, you're eating 2 to 3 hours, every 2 to 3 hours. But that's not always the case. So breaking up your meals is important because you want to ingest these nutrients on a regular basis. However, okay, so you're eating every 2 to 3 hours. You want to ingest these nutrients because, excuse me, you're eating every 2 to 3 hours. Now it's hard to, on a calorie deficit. So when you're trying to lose weight, calorie deficit is very important. Why you should break your meals up is you want to stay satiated. So as you go along, you're going to be eating a little less than you're used to, and it's a lot easier to eat less when you're eating more often. Okay, so that's a very key takeaway. On a calorie deficit, you want to maintain that calorie deficit, so you're going to break up your meals a little bit so you can continuously eat. Pretty straightforward. Now, another reason why you want to eat more often, especially on a calorie deficit, is that your metabolism, i.e. and in this case, what I'm talking about is your peristalsis, so the muscles in your gut. The more often you activate those, the more often you get the food moving, the more calories, not only the more calories will your muscles burn, but the more inhabit it gets, and the faster you digest your food. The faster you digest your food, the faster you get it into your body. That's what a fast metabolism is. So timing is very important. It's rule number 5. It's not integral to weight loss. Okay, I'll be bringing up terms like calorie deficit. That is very integral to weight loss, but these get more important as we go along. Okay. Any questions about timing? Okay. So, carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are a common theme when you're talking about diet, right? Don't eat carbohydrates. You hear that. Eat lots of carbohydrates. I've heard that, especially for athletes. Eat a lot of carbohydrates. So carbohydrates in general, very important. They're the baseline energy for stuff like weightlifting, for stuff like anything above a brisk walk or a jog. So you're going for a run, you're going for a heavy bike ride. Your body uses glycogen, which is carbohydrates broken down and stored in your muscles. Okay, super important. Your brain also uses sugars derived from carbohydrates, starches, sugars, carbohydrates. Okay, so all those are stored in your muscles. Now, there are diets out there like ketogenic diets that advocate for a less or even no carbohydrate diet. So I'll go into more detail as we go along. But what if you could get the same weight loss and the same body mass goals and eat carbohydrates at the same time? Like, I don't know about you, but I love yams. I love rice. I don't love bread. I don't love pastries. I mean, I love pastries, but I can't eat them. But there is a way to get away with eating carbohydrates and still making your goals. Okay, so I mentioned some of the carbohydrates that you can eat on a regular basis. I've read studies that say instead of no carbs, you're going to want to eat low carbs. So as you go about your day, especially if you're working out, you're tapping into these glycogen stores, okay? But it's not all the time. I mean, unless you're an athlete, you're not using these systems all the time, but you are using them. So, in other words, after a workout, after your glycogen stores are depleted, refill them, and then go about the rest of your day eating a low carb or no carb, high fiber, high green vegetable, nice healthy protein diet. So there's my suggestion for that. Eat carbohydrates only after a workout. Okay? And that way you'll be nice and satiated throughout the day. Your brain's going to be nice and happy, feeding off sugars, and you won't feel sluggish and other symptoms associated with a really low carb diet. Has anybody gone on a low carb diet before? Yeah, and how did you feel?
It helped to lose weight rapidly, but it doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Long ago, in the teenager, that kind of thing.
Now it works. Now the reason why a ketogenic diet works is because of its focus on high fat. And fat is another energy that our body, one of our systems in our body uses, but it's not ideal for, like I said, stuff like weightlifting. Okay. Any questions before I move on? Okay. Sleep, something I didn't mention in the introduction, but sleep is very important, especially when it comes to weight management. Now, in my experience as a personal trainer, and as someone who talks to people about their weight goals, a common occurrence that happens in people who have trouble managing their weight is a lack of sleep. Now, there's a reason for that. I'm trying to explain why, so I'm not just saying, well, eat whole foods and this is going to happen. So I'm trying to explain a little why. Get more sleep and this was going to happen. So our circadian rhythms, that's pretty much like the drum that our body goes to. So the rhythm or the watch that our body has certain processes that it sets its watch to. One of them being our temperature, one of them being our hormone secretion, another one being protein synthesis. Now our circadian rhythms, it's really interesting. It's built within us. It's actually built in plants. It's built in cyanobacteria. And more so it's about our sleep and weight cycle. But it does have, obviously, it is impacted by the light and dark cycle as well. It's very interesting. You go to the most simple form of life, they have two systems, a reaction to light and dark, and then ingestion and secretion. Those are the first two systems that come up in the simplest form of life. It's very interesting. Anyways, so a really great example of how our circadian rhythms can affect our day-to-day is jet lag. Right? We're used to being awake and being asleep at a certain time. And like I said, it's not as much about light and dark as it is about sleep and wake. You can be a comedian and wake up at 7:30 at night, start work at 1, go home at 4, go shopping, and be fine. But ideally, you're taking advantage of more sunshine, more vitamin D. So everybody's born with it. And yeah, when you jet lag, when you feel that, just like that sluggishness, that is circadian disruptions. So when we have those often, all the time, our systems, they get a little wonky. And in particular to weight loss, our hormone secretion, particularly insulin, gets thrown off. And so when we can't absorb sugars and use them as best as we can when it's floating around, they get stored as fat. And it's a sneaky one, because especially when you're working hard and you're like, well, I'm going to the gym, I'm going to work, I'm staying up until 12, you know, that A-type personality, you can really easily fall into it. And yeah, it's very important. 7 to 9 hours of sleep a day. Kind of tough sometimes, but naps out the time. Okay? Any questions? Okay.
So I actually,
Yeah, sure.
one is I mean, I certainly noticed that having children, like if you're up in the night, then the next day after I've had my sleep disrupted, and I have to think for my work. And so I'm probably looking for carbs and caffeine and various other things is you know, a replacement for the vitamin Z.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, totally. The obviously the cognitive, the cognitive aspect of sleep is super important. But Niels and I, we've gone through this. When we were getting married, we were just working our buns off, trying to pay for the wedding, and but at the same time we had some high-profile clients that we really wanted to impress, and then we had our baseline clients, and I think you were working at another job as well, yeah, part-time, so we were 6 hours, maybe, if we're lucky, and we didn't really think about it because we were all engines on. Okay, so what happened to us, and just personal experience, we didn't change the way we eat. Okay, we had the occasional, bouts of poor eating. Okay, but most of the time, in general, healthy people. We were continuously exercising, even with 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night. We were exercising, and yeah, the only difference was we were not sleeping. Right after our wedding, we took our wedding photos. Unfortunately, very expensive, and we were not in the best shape. Right now I'm about 198. Neil said you're 140?
Yeah.
If you don't mind me sharing.
Yeah, we both weighed about 20 pounds.
Yes.
During that time.
Yes, right after the wedding I was about 216 pounds, and it wasn't like a big muscly 216. Let's just say that. And it's the same with you. You were about 162 pounds.
Yeah, I was
5'7".
the biggest I ever been, actually.
Yes, and her blood sugar went up.
I was checked for diabetes.
Yes,
Yeah.
no huge changes in her diet. Blood sugar went up, and that's just the regulation of sugars by insulin that was affected because of lack of sleep. It's very, very interesting. My blood pressure went up. She lost a patch of hair.
Yeah.
It's going back.
It was a while ago.
Yeah, it's a while ago. Yeah.
But it was crazy.
Yeah.
The sleep is
Yeah.
really good.
One of the processes that happen when you're asleep, and this is why it's important to get a handle on it, is cortisol. Getting rid of the stress hormone. Even though, interestingly enough, side note, cortisol is what wakes you up. But it's not good to have excess amounts of it. Yeah, getting rid of that and then building muscles and not having it stored as anything else. That all happens when you sleep. So it's very interesting. Any more questions? 7 to 8 hours. 7 to 9.
I wonder if stress increases your insulin levels or I know there's stress hormone.
Mm-hmm. You know what it does do, and from my research on lack of sleep, you sleep less. You wake up earlier. Cortisol does have its place, right? For when we're asleep, it wakes us up. That's exactly what wakes us up, or else we'd be sleeping forever. Sometimes it might sound nice, but it's not. So if you're already high levels of sleep, I mean, I've heard, being an entrepreneur, I'm trying to get motivation every time I can. One of the quotes that stuck out to me was, if you're not up at 4 a.m. thinking about something, it's not very important to you, right? So you don't get a lot of sleep when you're really stressed out. And then, yeah, so you get all wonky. So get a hold of your regulations and 7 to 9 hours of sleep, so we don't store sugar and we can regulate it better. Okay, so water. Why is it important? Drink all the water. Drink water. You know, and of course you feel better. So it's really kind of a no-brainer. You drink them. There is such thing as overdosing on water. There's been a few cases, especially in football, where at least this was high school football, I believe. We drank several liters of Gatorade and several liters of water. Fighters, that happens to them. It gives them kind of a slurring voice, and then, you know, because they're fighters, they get away with it. But then you have to ask them, are you concussed, or have you drank too much water? It's very interesting. But there are a number of reasons why water is very important. My list isn't exhaustive, but I've taken 2 main reasons. One is mechanical. Water running through your system helps with secretion of, you know, stuff that's not supposed to be there, waste products and heavy metals and such, going through our kidneys, and we excrete it. And it also helps, again, with peristalsis. Moves these little muscles. And I do this because they're microscopic, but they actually look like this. It's really cool. Moves the food in waves. And so I always suggest you drinking. That's why it's very important to drink water before and after each meal. And it helps with digestion. It actually helps break down the food. And this is the physical water. It helps break down the food and helps you digest it faster. And then with the peristalsis, it helps it move faster, digest faster, and your metabolism gets faster. It's really important. So there's more involved with hydration than just water. You have, you know, electrolytes that you sweat out, and then you also have. That's why when you go for a workout, you lose weight. You're not just losing water; you're actually burning carbohydrates, you're burning fat, and so on. So more than just water for hydration. But hydration and water, key components to muscle contractions. I always have to muscle contractions. Okay, so really basic, super basic breakdown. Cellular respiration. That just means we take water and sugar stores from our muscles, glycogen, and put them together so our muscles can create contractions. You know, this happens in the mitochondria, in our cells, and the more contractions happen, the more energy we need, right? So when we're talking about exercise, yes, glycogen is very important, and you need sugar to help with aid with these contractions, but the oxygen that we get from water is a very, very key component. We've all heard about you can last a lot longer with no food and no water. Right? We have other systems in our body that, you know, provide oxygen. Right? We breathe, obviously, and we actually absorb oxygen through our skin. But that doesn't last forever. Sooner or later, the mechanical side of water, so the flushing, the byproducts of exercise and the byproducts of, you know, just the environment, if we don't have those, all those build up, and then everything stops working. You know, one of our muscles is our heart. So that's, yeah. I actually read a story the other day of a gentleman who went for, I think he went, it was about, I want to say a week. It may have been a bit longer because a week doesn't sound impressive. But after, he went a week without water, and afterwards he was about a husk. And the guy who found him, he actually ended up living. This is like an endurance, a book on endurance. He was dying. And he would manage to eat. He managed to eat, to catch animals and stuff like that, but he was a skeleton, so it was very scary. So with regards to water, if we don't drink enough water, all those byproducts of exercise and our lifestyle are going to build up, and we won't be able to move. And if we're not moving the same way and feeling the same way, we're going to not burn as many calories. We're going to have all these glycogen stored up, going to make it to our bloodstream, and we get stored as fat instead of usable things. Any questions?
So on the question of water, after dinner I tend to graze, which I know is not the right thing to do. But I've read or heard that if you have a big glass of water after you've had your meal, that sort of satiates you for the rest of the evening, or will deter you from sort of snacking until you go to bed.
Well, that goes back to timing as well. Now, if you have a goal which is like weight loss, right? You want to stop eating about an hour before you go to bed. Okay. Stop eating, or like you said, snack. And it'll help maintain a nice healthy weight. Now, water right before you go to bed, I don't think, for me it helps stimulate my digestion. Right? Also, you're not doing a whole lot of, maybe, I sweat when I'm in bed. It's not good, I sweat. So you're still going to hold on to that water, and you're going to go pee. I haven't read any super benefits of drinking water right before you go to bed. But water before each meal, so if you're eating 3 meals a day, that's 6, and that's 3 cups after each meal, and when you wake up, and then before you go to bed. So it helps keep stimulating everything while you're,
When you say water, does it include all the liquids you're consuming, or is that just the pure water?
Well, so in tea, I know and coffee, they're diuretics. So they kind of use water at the same time they put water into you. So it's kind of balances it out. So water will hydrate you completely. And then there are more hydrating, like I said, more in hydration, there's more than just water involved. So it's not a bad idea to drink things that are high in electrolytes or nutrients that don't have caffeine in them. They will hydrate you. Yeah, that is included into the minimum 2 liters a day. The more you work out, the more mitochondria, more muscle contractions, you need more water. Okay. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Any other question?
Well, I tend to sip all day, because I don't except in the summer when it's really hot, I might drink a lot at a time. But usually I'm just sipping all day and all night. I don't know, I just get thirsty when I sip, but I don't know if that's the same thing.
In this endurance test, I can send you guys the link. Thirst is apart from hydration. It does the perceived, exertion, the perceived, need for water is really, really powerful. But I don't see any problem with just sipping as long as you're getting a nice solid 2 liters a day.
And I drink a lot more in the summer because it's hot.
Yeah.
Sometimes in the winter, unless it's hot water, I'll drink hot water.
I drink lukewarm water.
Yeah.
It's not
I
fun.
don't like cold water.
Yeah. Well, on that note, back to peristalsis. These slow down, right, when you're drinking cold water. So it actually makes it a lot harder on your digestion and nutrient absorption when you're drinking cold water with your meals. I know it's not pleasant drinking warm water. For me, I don't like drinking warm water. I drink it to cool my inner temperature off, but it's better for you. Especially if you're trying to raise your metabolism and burn fat. Okay, awesome, good questions. So, Whole Foods. Why? Okay. We've all seen that picture of a salad right next to fast food. And you're like 1,500 calories of this and 1,500 calories of that. Which one is better? Salad or fast food? He's yelling out. There we go. Thank you. Fast food fans today. Okay, fast food fans today. So there's a reason why. Okay, so I like to talk about it from an evolutionary biological standpoint, as well as an economic standpoint. We've been eating whole foods in the history of our genetics as human beings. We're eating whole foods a lot longer. Okay, pretty straightforward. So when you're eating processed foods, our body just has no idea what to do with it. And in response, it creates a lot of inflammatory responses because you're eating these nutrients from these processed foods. They're spread throughout your body, and your body goes, oh, we need to get a hold of this, we need to get a hold of this, and that's when an inflammatory response is. Very basic. But trying to adhere to that is very important. Economically, when you're trying to lose weight, you want to go on a calorie deficit. There's that term again. That's eating just literally eating less than what you eat now. That's all it means. If you count calories, you have this many calories. You cut 100 calories off, you're on a calorie deficit. You know, how drastic the weight change has a number of other factors. These 5 rules, maybe. Now, when you're eating less food, it's very important that you don't actually deprive your body of important nutrients. I mean, your body does a great job of breaking down whatever enters your body and using it and getting rid of waste. And you'll find more about that when I'm talking about ketogenic diets. But when you're eating processed food, it does a great job of just going, okay, well, let's work with what we have here. But that's not what you want your body to do all the time. You want it to be running nice and smooth, getting what it's used to, historically what it understands. Okay, so when you're eating 1,500 calories, you want to get, and you're on a caloric deficit, you want to get as much out of your food as possible. I always say, don't count calories, make calories count. Right? And that's a huge thing. So when you're looking at your meals, and this is rule number 1, when you're looking at your meals, ask yourself, have I chosen the most nutrient-dense version of what I want to eat here? Okay? So you have, starches, proteins, and fibrous meal items there. That could be a burger bun. That could be a, you know what I'm saying? That could be some pickles, and that could be a burger. Okay, or that could be fibrous vegetables. That could be a nice healthy piece of protein. Big heaping size of vegetables and a comfortable starch, something like that. So that's I can't change I can't point this out any firmer. If you're going to make a change, switch to a diet of all whole foods. And your body's just going to go, oh, that's what I was supposed to do. That's what I'm supposed to do. Oh, okay, that's where I'm supposed to put that. And everything just gets a little easier. You always want to give your body a break in terms of rest and recovery. So you don't want it to work too hard, and because it's going to slow down, it's going to work backwards in order to take a step forward. Okay? Now, fibrous foods. Okay, we know fiber makes us poop, and I have like a volume of poop jokes because poop is very, very, very important when you're looking at how healthy you are or what you're eating, if it's good for you or not. Now, you can eat fiber, but what's missing from that term fiber is prebiotic. Prebiotic. Your gut biome, and this is something you hear often nowadays, which is like gut health and stuff like that. Your gut biome has all these. I think 1% of your body weight right now is bacteria, and they all live in this area here, and it affects how their mood and their well-being affects everything, from your blood pressure to your mood. It's very important. Now, what they eat, what they like to eat, fiber, especially fiber that's in vegetables, whole food vegetables. So not fiber one bars, but fibrous, carnivorous greens. It's very important. Now, it's really interesting. When these are happy, you actually start absorbing nutrients better. When you absorb nutrients better, you don't have to eat as much. You can eat nutrient-dense food, and then will absorb all of it, or most of it, get rid of the waste, versus if it's unhappy, what those bacteria do, the bad bacteria, they store food, and they create inflammation throughout the body. So now, not only are you storing more calories than you're ingesting, like genuinely ingesting and using, you're also creating an inflammatory response in the rest of your body, and it's fighting against that. So what kind of, it's putting out fires, so it doesn't really have time to almost stoke a fire on its own. So it's very important that we're getting all these, if you're looking at healthy food, and you're looking at anti-inflammatories versus inflammatory type food, get a list of healthy foods. Almost every single one of them is going to be alkaline and anti-inflammatory to some extent. And so paying attention to your stomach and your gut health and your poop is very important. Yeah, any questions?
I read that those tiny little red chilies are really good for you. And the reason is, I noticed that I eat them too. Like,
Mhm.
I don't mind eating those chilies, like I cut them up. But yeah, they're supposed to be really good.
Yeah, for your gut health? Just
No,
for you in general?
Antioxidant,
Yeah.
just like lots of things.
Yeah, definitely. I know, what we're talking about, the berry fibers, and your stomach loves fibrous vegetables.
So a lot of people can't eat chilies.
Yeah, you're right.
They're really hot.
Some really good fibrous foods that aren't super hot and that your stomach loves, artichokes. People love artichokes. Kimchi is, yes, it does. It's a great example of both prebiotic and a probiotic. So we all know what a probiotic is, which is something that holds on to a lot of bacteria, has its own bacterial culture, and that you ingest. So you have these little pills, not the best option, okay? If you have trouble getting them into your diet from day to day, that's excellent. However, it's a very, very minute portion of the big biome that is, healthy gut bacteria. And best way to get that is to ingest them on food. So Neilton mentioned kimchi. Kimchi is a makeup of chilies and cabbage. Cabbage, very, very, very good in terms of gut health promotion. Purple cabbage, it also gets your testosterone up. You also have kefir. That's fermented milk. So it's very interesting. Yogurt, when you start looking at it as fermented milk, it changes your perspective a little bit.
So what do you think of the juicing craze?
So I love it in terms of more nutrients. Yes, whole foods, right? It's unless someone puts in some, chocolate chips on them. Even then, cacao nibs. But it's great, whole foods. Now the downside of it, the bad part of it, let's say, okay, the good is whole foods. The bad is sugar. It's really a lot faster you ingest sugar. So if you blend up your carrots, the sugar acts a lot faster, for example. And of course, same with fruit. And then people are very tempted to put in apple juice and orange juice and stuff like that. And then the ugly, that would be the ugly. But then the ugly is, it also breaks up those prebiotic fibers. So they're not as effective. Yeah. So if you get the chance to eat your vegetables, try not to blend them, but a blended vegetable is better than no vegetable at all. Yeah. Does that answer your question? Great.
Actually, what's your definition of whole foods?
So my definition of whole foods is the closer you can get to picking up your food and yanking it out of the ground, the closer it is to a whole food.
So you're not even cooking then?
To some extent. There are some downsides to eating a lot of raw green vegetables, and also we've evolved to be coctivores, which is like we evolved around having our food cooked. That's why our brains are so big, because we can get the nutrients a lot faster. So that's really important. Yeah. So, and as close as you can get to processing the animal yourself, that's very important. And then do your research on where you're getting your animal from. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Sorry, you have a question?
I was just gonna touch on the bacteria in your stomach,
Mhm.
Firmicutes and Bacteroidetes. So-
Formicutes and Bacteroidetes. If you ever wonder where the term cooties comes from, Firmicutes are the bad bacteria, and Bacteroidetes are the good ones. Okay. So any questions before I move on to fad diet? The fad diet, it'll take a couple minutes.
So you recommend to add these probiotic pills?
What I recommend is a regular ingestion of probiotics in terms of food. That's what I always recommend. So stuff like kimchi, fermented milk like kefir or yogurt, stuff like sauerkraut, very, very rich in probiotics.
Okay, so
Yes.
it's enough.
Yes, you don't have to take that, and it's very limited. I think a serving, like a small serving on a regular basis will help a ton. Yes, yes. And then alongside what they eat, which is fibrous vegetables. For sure.
And like, do you get into, or interested in things that have inulin, like centros and that kind of prebiotic?
So, say again?
Inulin?
Anyway.
It's like it's not in centros, which is, it's a prebiotic, like it's a kind of, like something which is not quite a sugar, that bacteria like,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
It sounds like a type of fiber. Right. It sounds like a type of fiber or starch that is alongside fiber. I mean, starch is a string of sugars,
Right.
fibers. Yeah. So I'm not sure what inulin is.
Yeah, inulin.
Inulin.
Yeah.
But if it's along the lines of being fibrous and from a whole food, it's definitely a really good prebiotic. Yeah.
Do you know anything about like the gut health, that why it, I mean, do you know anything about the connection between anxiety and gut health?
A little bit, that's a whole other workshop. But your gut, your healthy gut bacteria, they make, they actually secrete a neurotransmitter called GABA. And GABA has been shown to be the, what calms our, anti-excitatory. I don't want to get too fancy, but it calms down the neurotransmitters from firing too quickly.
So if someone has anxiety, how should they change their diet to
Whole
minimize
foods.
it?
Whole foods only, drink a lot of water, and get into good habits like when you're anxious, act on it. Whatever you're anxious about, and even if you can't act on what you're anxious about, going into some kind of mode of action. Exercise is pretty strict, is the most obvious one, because you can just pick something up and start moving. It helps a ton. Just, I always say this, the best cure for anxiety is action, always. Because you're anxious about something. Why? And then, like I mentioned, it doesn't necessarily have to be what you're anxious about. Sometimes you can't. But getting into action and moving around, saying you did something and accomplished something, it makes you feel a ton better. In terms of what you ingest, sugar and gluten. That's a gut health seminar there. Those are known to destroy your gut bacteria. So you really, non-whole foods, and then you start to store more calories than you use. And at the same time, those healthy gut bacteria that promote GABA, they die. Okay? Does that answer your question? Drink more water, eat more whole foods,
Sort of,
exercise.
but it's not actually for me, and the person who has it does all those things. They still have it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well,
so I don't know.
keep on keeping on. Yes, definitely.
We can also talk after. I have a lot of information about that if you want to have a chat
Yes.
afterwards.
You
Yeah.
just posted something on anxiety.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Definitely. Okay, any more questions? Brief. All right, brief rundown. So, fad diets, tons of them. And I hope I just gave you guys some insight on what's best for you, your lifestyle. It really matters what kind of lifestyle you're leading. If you're an athlete, you need to eat more carbohydrates. But if you're, day to day, working out once a day, carbohydrates once a day. 2 liters minimum of water a day, and if you're exercising, more water. 7 to 9 hours of sleep, please, and try to eat 2 to 3 hours, every 2 to 3 hours, And if you can't, eat your 3 meals and snack before you go to sleep. Because you're trying to lose weight, stop eating an hour before you go to bed. Okay, so there's a couple of diets that are really scary out there. I don't want to use any brand names, but injection-based diets. Injection-based diets. So ones where you're on an extremely low-calorie diet. From what I remember, it's under 1,000 calories for this one particularly. And in order to stay awake, you go and take a injection of B vitamins and a concoction of whatever they come up with. Okay, terrifying. Now, the good part, it highlights the caloric deficit that you need to lose weight. Okay. The bad part, you don't know what's in that. You don't know what's in the injection. Okay. Yeah, I'm sure you heard the name.
Oh, sure.
I'm not going to
It's
share.
Bernstein's diet.
No, I've never heard of it.
It's very drastic.
It's very drastic, okay? You don't know what they put into it, so it's always suspect, and just stress off the charts for that, for me.
Hellish and expensive.
Yes.
So you can't maintain it. It's hard to maintain.
Modifies no behavioral aspect of your life,
Yes.
and you can't live on that forever. And I've never known anyone who's done that diet. They've all lost tremendous amounts of weight, and they've all gained it all back and more within a year.
Beat me to it. You can't maintain it. It's very similar, like you said, nothing changes about the habits. It's literally, I'm hungry, I'm starving, before I pass out, I'm gonna go get the shot. And then, so what kind of habit does that, that's not consistent, okay? And it's very unhealthy for you. Long term, being on that low caloric intake is detriment to your health. Okay, Atkins diet. You've heard of the Atkins, it was a big thing. I remember in the movie Step Brothers. Have you guys seen that, anybody?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I haven't eaten a carb in like 3-4 years and it's shredded, right? Okay, cool. The good, it highlights the importance of protein. Okay, it's a very high protein diet. I think it's no carbs, no fat. You can eat vegetables as long as they aren't starchy. So it's a little intense. So it highlights the importance of protein. Protein is involved in almost every system in our body. Okay, and that's about it. The bad part of it is protein is not an ideal source of energy. It's like a low-grade fuel. For the same reason why you wouldn't put low-grade fuel in a really good car. There's a lot of byproducts of using protein as your primary source of energy, and it's not positive. It's hard on your kidneys. And then the ugly long-term Atkins diet has been shown to, promote organ failure, especially in your kidneys, and you're not going to be able to work out. You're not going to be able to really make any serious gains. Okay. Some athletes are weight dependent, so wrestlers and MMA fighters, they have to lose a lot of weight. So they go on a very extreme diet for a short time. But the shorter the time, the better. And they lose all the weight, but right afterwards, right before they compete, they fill up again. So don't take those isolated incidents and try to make them a lifestyle. It's very hard to do, or it's very detrimental even. Ketogenesis. Now, ketogenesis is a process where your body is burning fat as its primary fuel source. In order to do that, you ingest a whole lot more fat than you're used to, and your carbohydrates are about this much of your diet. Carbohydrates, and you have protein, not even protein, and then you have fat like that. It's a lot. I've seen some things that up to 85% of your daily intake of calories is fat. Okay. And you see a lot of people who shred it and get really ripped on it. Have you guys, what's your experience with keto? Does anybody have any experience with keto?
I've only heard of it.
Okay, you've only heard of it, yeah. So, the good, it works. It works. You get really lean. Really, really lean. Now, the reason why is if you're in a, for example, you don't have anything to eat. I always go back to an evolutionary, biological explanation for this. What's around? There's a lot of animals around also starving. So you're gonna be, if you want to eat them, that's my explanation for that system in your body. Now, when you jack up the fat and your body has nothing else to burn, it's gonna use fat as a fuel source. That's a great fuel source. I think the same portion of fat to a carbohydrate has almost twice as many calories, a bit more, I think it's 3 to 7 in a gram, 3 to 7 calories. Now, that's great, so it works. When you ingest more, your body's gonna get used to burning it, and then over time, it's gonna burn fat really, really well, right? So it helps burn fat, okay. The good. The bad, fat's not an ideal source of energy. So again, just like protein, less serious as protein, just like protein has a number of, downsides of your body having to burn it. Because it's not its first choice in energy, it doesn't catabolically break down fat. So what I mean by catabolically, I mean it breaks, so carbohydrates break down into something smaller, a smaller version of carbohydrates, and then smaller and smaller until it gets to ATP, which is the ones our cells use. Now, fat doesn't have those choices. So what your body has to do is take fat, rip it apart, and make something completely different. And it's very stressful. It's very stressful. Your body has to work extra hard to do it. Having said that, I've read papers on how the fat metabolizing benefits of going on keto stay with you after you go off of keto. So keep that in mind. Now, the ugly part of it is it's very hard to sustain. It's very hard to sustain. Ketosis is the process of your body changing into using fat as a fuel source. It takes weeks. Sometimes it might take up to 2 months for some people. Everybody's different. So that's hard to track. Okay. It's when it does happen, it's not very pleasant. Your urine smells, right? It's the ketones, with the other energy source that goes along with fat burning. They smell. Your breath smells. It's very hard. Okay, so yeah, you can suck it up. But now, as soon as you eat a piece of bread, ketosis is out of the window. You have to start all over again. The process of getting into ketosis is it's unpleasant because your body's transitioning over into a whole other fuel source. So you're switching engines, and it's clunky and it's unpleasant, low energy, cognitive impairments. So, your choice. Go through that and get really good at fat burning. What it definitely will stop you from doing is anything intense. It's very, very difficult for your body to take that fat and turn it into carbohydrates. Okay. It does do it, and it still won't do it as effectively. So when you're asking your body for glycogen, it's not as readily available, and it's going to be a lot harder to do a hard workout, long bike ride, kettlebell swings, anything like that. Okay. Last one. Oh, second last one. Paleo.
Sorry, what do you mean by fast? Do you mean like cheese? Do you mean like fats on the steak? Like what do you mean by when people do that?
So there's a number of different fats. So what I would suggest, because in our body it all looks very similar. Go back to rule number 1, whole foods only, okay? And you're looking at nutrient density, right? And then obviously the quality of whatever animal you're eating it off of. You want to look at what you're eating with the fat. So what are you eating? So like, for example, eating fish versus a steak. One is a lot easier digested and it has a lot more nutrients. Steak has really important nutrients in it as well, but it takes a lot longer to digest and it's hard for your body to digest. So that's really important to look at. The quality of the animal is very important to look at as well. like we were talking about for the past half an hour, your body stores fat. So it also stores waste in fat to some extent. If you have, some particularly like pesticides and growth hormones and antibiotics, those also store fat. So when you're looking at, what kinds of fats I should be eating, take that in consideration. A healthy animal will make good fats for you. Some animals, like salmon and bison, if you're looking at like land animals, they create more omega-3 fats. Now, the only reason why I suggest omega-3 fats is because unhealthy fats and then fats used to cook with tend to be omega-6 fats, and we get a lot of those. And ideally, in the papers that I've read, you should have a little bit more omega-3s. So when you're looking at supplements and you're looking at what kind of fats you should be eating, go for omega-3s. And now those omega-3s have been shown to improve your cardiovascular, so your vascular health in your eyes and obviously your heart. And in terms of energy, if you're doing long distance runs or doing runs where you're not really picking up the energy and like burning and getting panting and lifting heavy weights, those are the kind of fats you should be eating. Does that answer your question?
Sort of. Yeah.
Sort of.
Because like when you say fat, I think,
Mhm.
cakes and cookies.
Okay. Yeah.
Butter and all that.
Yeah. So look at what's made, how it's made. So you have corn oil, for example. It's an extreme example. Take a kernel of corn and go, how much oil comes out of that? Not a lot, not a ton. It's a little shiny, right? But, so how do they get oil out of that? They have to take it to a lab, pull a bunch of stuff in there, break it up, reform it, and then package it and sell it to you, okay? Versus an avocado, which is greasy. You're immediately like, oh, this is greasy, okay? Naturally occurring food, high in fat, okay? Animals, same idea, but you always have to put it through that. Where does this animal come from? What has it been eating? Because you're going to eat that as well. So cooking oils, very important to take a look at. And of course, too much of anything is bad for you. The problem with cakes and cookies is primarily the sugar and then the gluten. Yeah. Now, any questions? Fat, keto. Okay. Now, Paleolithic diet, fantastic. I mean, I like it a lot because it highlights the importance of whole foods, right? You can eat starches, you can eat meat, you can eat fat, and it's great, as long as it comes from something that was available to us when we lived in caves. All right, I love that idea, right? Evolutionary explanations and whole foods, fantastic. The bad part is we don't live in caves anymore, right? So we might have a different kind of energy need than a Neanderthal or this Cro-Magnon when he lived in a cave. So we kind of want to be a little looser and adjust our diet accordingly. Okay. Now the ugly part of it is that they exclude some food groups. They exclude some meal items. So for example, you can't eat legumes. So that's a bean, that's a lentil. And so that means you're excluding some really important nutrients. So that's the only thing I really don't like about it. Lentils and legumes, very high in fiber that your stomach loves, and also a really good source of vegan protein, so I regularly eat them. And I hate saying, no, you can't eat anything that's a whole food. I hate it. So, of course, allergies and so on. The ideal diet, start just eating whole foods. Just stop with the processed food, stop gluten and any excess sugar, so added sugar, and try to keep your sugar under 30 grams a day. That's a challenge in itself. You guys have your weight loss challenge. Sugar under 30 grams a day is a big challenge. Okay, do you guys have any questions?
What's the reason for no legumes in the
they claim inflammation. So some people, actually, it's pretty well known, your stomach does have an inflammatory response, and some people it's worse than others when you're eating legumes. But the nutrient and the prebiotic trade-off is important as well. So you have to ask. We have clients right now that ask for no beans because it just makes them feel a little bloated. I don't feel bloated when I eat beans. But yeah, it's magical fruit.
There's another guy that's really popular now, is the vegan.
Yeah. So I love vegan diet mainly because it highlights eat more vegetables, right? And that's why people see all these positive benefits of going on a vegan diet, because originally they likely weren't eating enough vegetables. So a problem I always see with vegetarians and vegans is that, or at least vegetarians, is that when they say I'm a vegetarian, I'm going to stop eating meat. And that's the only change they make. They don't start eating more and more vegetables. And then the downside of it is that you're genuinely missing out on nutrients that you can only find in meat. Meat, and I think it's a type of moss.
It's like you have to take B6 or B12.
Yes.
B12, right?
Yes.
So if we were naturally supposed to be vegetarians, we wouldn't need to ingest B12 if we become vegetarian.
Well, you
Right?
can
Like
get
our
that.
body should know how to. That's why when people say, "Oh, we were naturally vegetarian," how could we? Because there was no B12 vitamin.
I like pointing to these bad boys.
But I mean, what if we get our B12 then? Like
Yeah.
we would have had to.
Because it's in microbes, and so if we had any dirt on things, you could get the B12 off the dirt. And you need hardly any B12 if you're healthy.
And there's supplements as well, and then there's grind down, like I think it's seaweed or sea moss.
Blue algae.
Blue algae, yeah, that you can get almost the exact same nutrients that you would out of, red meat.
It's none of that stuff.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing. I have to take B12 injections, so the algae stuff doesn't work.
Oh, not at all.
It's an analog. It's not like there's one tiny difference in the molecule, and it works sometimes for some people, but it's slightly different.
Yeah, and so that's where when you have to start looking at what should I do to supplement my meals. But ideally, you're going through that list. You're going saying, okay, my meals are all whole foods. All right, I'm getting enough sleep. I'm getting enough exercise, and I'm drinking enough water. It's a great checklist to have. And then you can start asking, what should I supplement my meals with? In particular, like, am I producing enough B12?
Well, it
Right?
would be in kimchi because it's in the microbes in kimchi.
So getting a blood test is going to figure that out. What are my baselines? What am I missing out on? Am I producing enough of something? So it's all, so you always have to ask yourself, but those 5 tips are a great way to kind of frame that, your meal planning, and hopefully you start kicking a little butt. So if you have any questions, Steve knows me, but you can find us on Instagram, wholecuisine_BC. And if you're interested in the ebook, I'll go into this stuff a little bit more succinctly, and a little longer in the ebook.
I asked you a little bit about glycemic index, like that whole side of things. Like we talked a little bit about juicing, we sort of said things like sugar, we kind of talking around that. Like,
Right.
Yeah. So what's your position on that?
On blood sugar,
Yeah.
so everything that we're eating is that's healthy, that's particularly healthy. I always like to frame it around, like I said, an evolutionary, biological standpoint. When did we eat, like, usually, unless we, like, before we started farming, when did we get fruit? Very short time.
It depends where you were living.
Yeah, it depends on where you're living, you're right, but the majority of people, when do we get an opportunity to just munch on a large amount of sugar? Not very often, okay. So it's very important to maintain our blood sugar. There's things that will mess it up permanently, or not permanently, but for a long time, and that's called diabetes. So the more often we spike that blood sugar response, our insulin response, the less it happens. It gets tired and it just doesn't work anymore, and then our insulin just stops working. So, in terms of what foods we should be eating, if you can stay away from, like this is a healthy person I'm talking about, you can stay away from a huge amount of fruit. You do want to eat fruit. Fruit, glucose and fructose together actually absorb better into your muscles than either one together. So you do want a small serving of fruit almost daily. Excess is always the problem. More, it doesn't always mean better. So watch the amount of fruit that you're intaking. Otherwise, whole foods should not spike your blood sugar. This goes back to the shakes. So it's the same idea. So you break up those sugars a little bit more, they're going to be faster acting, especially when they're liquid. Just hit your system like that. So be aware of smoothies. Be aware of excess amount of fruit. And if you're sticking to whole foods, you should be pretty solid. Now, having said that, an unhealthy person, so someone who has an issue processing sugars, you should maintain a certain level of blood sugar. At the same time, you can't. You have to be extra careful with starches. Starches are just big strings of sugar that are processed differently and processed a little bit slower in your gut than sugar immediately. So stuff like yams and white rice, actually rice and potatoes, those are all starch. Those are all the sugar wells for the plant. The green comes out of it, and they all eat the sugar from the starch. Just be aware of it. You probably want smaller portions. Having said that, interesting fact, rice, there's something called a resistant starch. So when you put it into a fridge and you cool it down, some of those starches harden up and become fiber that only your gut bacteria will eat. They won't turn into sugars anymore. That's only a portion of it. So if you really love rice but you want to lower your blood sugar, throw it in the fridge, bring it out. At the same time, if you have problems with your blood sugar, only a portion of those starches become resistant starches. So be aware of it.
Eat a little bit.
Eat a little bit, but eat rice is okay. Yeah. Does that help?
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. So, and we can talk more about gut health. Sugar and gluten are
Yeah.
But if you guys have any questions, please let Steve know, and he'll let me know, and I'll get back to you. If you want, get in contact with us and get a free ebook, give your email to Mrs. there. Thank you guys so much for coming. I'm really happy to help, and hopefully you guys can take this and use it to impact your lives in a positive way. Okay? Thank you so much.
Garrett.
Thank you. Good job.